I'd like to introduce Ralph Kling. He was P.O.W. And I'm going to let him, as a matter of fact, I'm not letting him. I'm honored to have him sign We the People. As you well know, people are chosen to sign this. It's We the People of this generation. And I'm being very honored to have him sign it. Would you please sign this for us, please? Okay. Under the P.O.W. You can push, go up higher, closer to the view. There you go. We're real fortunate to have a P.O.W. from World War II. I'm going to let him talk about what he went through, and I think all our kids should remember that what our grandfathers and our fathers and our fathers' fathers went through. So here you go.
Thank you, Richard. My twin brother and I, Roger Kling, and myself, after graduating from high school in Central Valley here in California, went to the University of California. We were going to be engineers, but with the war going on, we both had to join the Army, and they put us in the Air Corps, where we became Air Force cadets. We went through the cadet program together and graduated as first lieutenants on December 3rd, 1943. We went to replacement training units to learn to fly the P-47. He went down to Fort Myers, Florida, and I went to Perry, Florida, and got married there. My wife came all the way from California for our marriage. We were sent overseas after 2.5 months of training in the P-47, thinking we were going to be escort pilots, but it turned out we were dive bombers instead. Roger went to Africa, and I went to England. I joined the 365th Fighter Group, 388th Fighter Squadron, and I flew 2 missions before D-Day, and from D-Day on our group flew about 4 missions a day, and I got 66 missions afterwards. I shot down one Me-109, not with my skill. The poor guy just happened to be shooting at a P-47 when I arrived on the scene, and he got shot down in my first burst. I was shot down by a guy on the ground when we were strafing a building trying to get it to explode. Almost all of our missions were with General Patton. We would fly out to where he was, and a guy on the ground would talk to the number 3 ship and tell us where to go to drop our bombs, or who to shoot at, or just what we could do to help the ground forces. So I was shot down on September 21st. While I was strafing a building. I was right close to the deck, and I pulled it straight up. And I know the plane, I got shot with a gas line next to my foot was broken, and bottom of the cockpit was full of high-octane gas, and I know that it's going to explode in 10 seconds. So pulling it straight up, I managed to get out as far as my knees, and then I asked God to let me go home, take care of my wife Irene, and bingo, I was free. Hit the ground in nothing flat, and wasn't hurt there. I didn't know at the time that I was burned, I was picked up by 2 Germans as I went down the hill and held in a pillbox in this area of Luxembourg, a little country between France and Germany, and they had these deep pillboxes there. And that night, a German captain came and got me in a car and took me to Koblenz, where they put me in a displaced persons hospital. It was a terrible place because the doctor was a French veterinarian, and all the other patients were people who had come to Germany to work in the war industry and had been injured. And so they, by then, my legs and my face and head were just like the fire was, like I was burning up. I was in terrible pain. They wrapped me with a gauze with some pink stuff on it, and the pain went away just like that. And I would have probably been okay if they would have replaced the bandages the next day, but they waited about 2 or 3 days and then took the bandages off, and all the new skin in my legs were taken off at the same time. And So I'm in pain again, but the worst part was that if I stood up, my legs would bleed. So they kept me flat for about 3 weeks. And finally, when I could walk, they shipped me to Dulag Luft for the regular interrogation that most POWs went through, and then to Stalag Luft 3 camp about 90 kilometers south of Berlin. There were 5 camps here. 3 of them were American. The south and the west and the east camp, or the center camp, were all Americans. The north camp was all British, and the east camp was made up of a combination of French and Poles and Dutch airmen. Everybody in this camp was an airman. You were either a pilot or a bombardier or a navigator. So we were all officers. The only enlisted men there were 15 or 20 in each camp who took care of heating the water for our coffee or tea and distributing anything the Germans had for us. The British camp, the North Camp, had a chance to do an escape in March of 1944 and managed to get 79 guys out, but only 3 of those guys made it. 2 made it to Scandinavian country, and 1 made it to France and back to England from there. Hitler wanted to kill everybody in that camp, but the commandant wouldn't do it, so he fired him and brought in another commandant, and he bartered with Hitler and told Hitler, would it be okay if I just killed 50? So they killed 50 guys, took them out in the country, shot them one at a time behind the back of their head, brought them back to the Krieges camp, and the Krieges made a little monument for them. This happened in March of 44. Remember, I didn't get shot down till September, and I never got to Stalag Luft 3 until late October. So we were really being treated much better than most of the German POW camps, because Hermann Göring kind of treated everybody in this camp it was kind of his pet project. And we got Red Cross parcels every week, where most of the prisoners didn't. Well, starting in December, when the Battle of the Bulge started, our parcels slowed down. And end of January, they marched us out of there because the Russians didn't come and liberate us like we thought they might, and the Germans didn't shoot all the POWs like the possibility was considered. The idea was that Hitler wanted to march all the POWs to the west, and he would use us as hostages. So we left the camp at 10:30 at night on January 27th with 2 feet of snow on the ground. We managed to get 60 kilometers in 4 days. And after one night's rest there, they put us on trains, and we ended up in a small Wehrmacht camp in a town called Moosburg, about 17 or 18 miles north of Munich. And we were there until the war ended. They weren't ready for us there. They had no restroom facilities. They just dug a trench for us, and that was it. A lot of us either slept outside, or there were no barracks. There was just kind of a barn situation. So in the end of April, by now we had no German food since the end of January. We've been living off of the stuff we carried with us. Most of us were down to 90 or 75 pounds. We're just a bunch of skeletons like. So we were liberated on April 29th in 1945 by General Patton's Third Army, and everybody stuck around there, and they were flown out to Camp Lucky Strike, caught a boat home from there. Some of us went back, and my wingman was in the West Camp, and I got to meet up with him, so he and I went back and spent a week with my squadron, but they didn't want anything to do with us, and so we went to Camp Lucky Strike and went home. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to see you, Richard, and all the wonderful things you're doing. It's amazing. Congratulations for your